I wasn't especially interested in athletics. The only exercise I ever got was when the other kids picked on me. Yeah, they used to beat me up once a week, usually Tuesday. And after a while, the school worked it into the curriculum. And if you knocked me out, you got extra credit. Except there was this one kid, poor kid. He was afraid of me, and I used to tell him, hit me. What's the matter with you? Don't you want to graduate?
Welcome to the Perfect Movie Podcast, the podcast where we answer the question, is this a perfect movie? I'm Michael.
I'm Kalen.
And today we are continuing our Marty May series, where we talk about our favorite Martin. Nope, not Chris Martin, the lead singer of Coldplay. Nope. Not Curtis Martin, former running back for the NFL team, the New York Jets. Nope. Not Martin McDonough, the director of Banshees of Inisherin, although he's a good director.
He is a good director.
It's Martin Scorsese in Marty May.
Oh, my God.
So, last episode, we did our 70s film. So now we're moving on to the 80s. What is our 80s film?
Our 80s film is King of Comedy. It is Martin Scorsese's 8th film. It was released in 1983. It's starring Robert De Niro.
Shocker.
Those
guys, they don't work together
They
often.
never work together, ever. Yeah, Michael, what did you comedy?
So I just want to lay out for any people shaking their fist at their listening device saying, 80s movie, and you didn't pick Raging Bull? Raging Bull is a certified 5-star movie, but super downer. And just as far as me watching and us talking about a movie, I felt like The King of Comedy, which is a personal favorite of mine, would be better than having back-to-back just...
Also kind of a downer.
It is, but I find it to be a lot lighthearted than compared to, like, Raging Bull, which is about, like, an angry boxer that abuses his wife.
Yeah, true.
Know?
Very true. He got really mad about that steak. King of Comedy is kind of like it's kind of an under-the-radar Martin Scorsese film. Not many people have seen it. I know this is my first time watching it. It's to be said, this movie had a $19 million budget, and they grossed $2.5 million. So it didn't really do too well box office-wise. So I think this one just kind of flew under the radar. I think it got adequate reviews, but it wasn't anything like raving.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to follow up a run where... there was a movie in between called New York, but like Taxi Driver and then Raging Bull, which was very much lauded at the time. Then we kind of go in the 80s. It's King of Comedy. It's Color of Money. It's After Hours. It's Last Temptation of Christ. I think this is sort of the era of movies that a lot of people have lost. They return to Scorsese around Goodfellas time and kind of take off past then. So yeah, it is, I think, maybe a little bit lesser known. I came across it just streaming it randomly a while back, and I really enjoyed it. I don't know, what'd you think about it this first time?
I thought it was good. I didn't love it, but I thought it was very competent. I thought Robert De Niro killed it again. Just a great character. He plays a character called...
Rupert Pupkin.
It's kind of a running joke in the movie that everybody says his last name wrong. So I'm probably going to say his last name wrong as well.
Jerry, Mr. Pumpkin is here to see you.
Yeah. So we're following a character who's really trying to break into show business, and he's been very unsuccessful up until he gets kind of like what he thinks is his big break. It kind of starts off with like a mob of people kind of descending onto this guy named Jerry. Last name? Do you know?
The actor's name is Jerry Lewis, but I forget what they call his name. Jerry Langford in the
Jerry
movie.
Langford, and he's like this big talk show host in New York, and he's very much loved by the people. He's got some major groupie stuff going on where there's like this woman that's been stalking him forever, and she's like very aggressive, and she exudes crazy.
Marsha.
Yeah. And so things happen, and somehow Robert De Niro ends up in his car. He kind of like saves him from this group of onlookers, and he gets a chance to kind of pitch his whole routine to him and kind of tell him what he's about. And obviously Jerry is kind of like, he's not really inclined to listen, but he's just kind of trying to get this guy away from him. So he's like, yeah, just call my office, and we'll try to listen to your tape, and we'll sit down with you. And so obviously our guy Rupert is like, he's just like, yeah, this is finally my big break. And yeah, some other things happen in the movie, and then it ends on him committing like a very serious crime. So
yeah, it's interesting that you said he's trying to break into show business. I don't think that's really the case. I think he's infatuated with fame and wants to be famous, and he does idolize Jerry Langford, this famous comedian. But it's clear from everything that happens after that meeting that he's actually laid no groundwork for actually being a comedian.
Right.
If that is his goal. His early the first advice Jerry gives him is, okay, well, you got to go do shows, do some work. You start at these clubs and you work your way up.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. It's all based on delusion, which is like he thinks that he has the talent. He's the king of comedy. He thinks that he has enough talent to where he doesn't have to put in the work for anything. Somebody will just automatically hear his tape or hear him do something, and they're like, boom, you've got the makings of greatness. You're going to be the greatest one ever, this kind of thing.
He's like a grown man with that, like, I don't know, like adolescent image of like how
fame
works.
For sure.
That somebody's just going to go along and be like, you got it, kid. You got the Riz.
Yeah.
Come with me and we will be successful.
You've said Riz a lot recently.
I'm
not really messing with it.
It's my new word.
Yeah.
Just a side tangent before we get into our main topics. Where would we rank this in the Robert De Niro, Martin Scorsese movie drip rankings? Because I think Rupert Pupkin, I think he was supposed to look dorky in the 80s. A lot of drip from this man, I would say.
Yeah, he's very stylish. I would say Robert De Niro looked his best in Casino.
I was going to say Casino. This is a different style. I do love his suit that he wears at the end.
Yeah, the kind of checkered pattern or whatever he's got going on.
Or his kidnapping outfit.
Yeah, that with the glasses. Yeah, he was definitely dripped out. Casino takes the cake. Those suits in that movie, I would actually wear some of those. Those are fly. Yeah. We need to do more drip checks in our fucking films.
Raging Bull, he's dripping sweat a lot.
That's a good one.
Taxi Driver, he's just, got that serial killer drip.
He's got that punk drip.
Yeah, he's pre-punk.
Yeah. Goodfellas, he's not real drippy in that.
No, Goodfellas is not a particularly drippy movie, I would say.
No. I mean, they got the nice suits, but they're not like trying to be flashy.
Let's come back around. Killers of the Flower Moon, drip check.
I'm sure. I mean, he had the top hats and stuff.
Yeah.
For the time, I bet he was really fly.
He did get to paddle Leonardo DiCaprio's bottom.
Oh my God! So that's like major drip points right there. He had Leonardo dripping.
Pause. Okay. Any other De Niro drip checks? I'm trying to think of any other.
What's a movie outside of like Scorsese realm?
Oh, it's funny. Speaking of, it's not a drip check, but he's in this movie Copland, where he plays this internal investigator cop, and it just feels like he's playing Rupert Pupkin like later in life, or Rupert Pupkin's uncle. He has this line where he gives Stallone this offer to help him out with these cops he's investigating, and he blows it, and he just goes, I gave you an offer to make you a real cop, and you blew it. You blew it. Which is like his entire, like, one of my favorite Rupert Pupkin scenes is when he's fantasizing having dinner with Jerry Langford, like right after he meets him, and he's like, Jerry, You asked me to do 6 weeks on your show, and it's impossible. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Do you want to see the tears come out of my eyes? So he kind of runs that back in Copland. Not a drip check.
I got a drip check.
Drip check.
There's this movie that he was in, a terrible, terrible movie with him and John Travolta. It was called The Last Hunt or The Last Season, something really stupid. But he wore hunter camo.
Oh,
So
that's very in.
It's married, very, very drippy.
Scorsese movies, Color of Money. Not really a drip check, but young Tom Cruise, hot. He can wear whatever.
Okay.
Just saying.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah, that's drip check corner.
Okay,
Well,
we're officially making drip check a segment.
does they have the drip? All right, drip check next week for Goodfellas.
All right, yeah.
We'll have to peep the drip.
And you got to play the clip of Willem Dafoe doing his drip check. Some YouTuber ran up to him and he did a drip check.
Nice. Okay, I'll look that up. Shall we get into the performance test?
Yes.
This is where we talk about our favorite actors, characters, scenes, and moments.
It was the performance of a lifetime!
Robert De Niro, again. We're going to be doing a lot of Robert, so expect him to be like our number one honorable mention.
Exactly what I said last episode. This is him and his inability to understand social cues era. Instead of less sinister, there is some sinisterness behind it.
For sure.
But he is just pushy in the most kind of disarming way until he like hits that wall.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
He never has the moment like he has in Taxi Driver where he like tells Betsy, he's like, you're just a whore like the rest of them or whatever. Like, he never has that all the way until the end.
Well, it's like he just won't be moved.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. You know who this character really reminds me of? Michael Scott from The Office.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Just like that, again, the social cues, the lack of self-awareness. You're just kind of a nuisance constantly, and then it's like you resort to childlike behavior when you are in the wrong, basically.
Mr. Pumpkin,
How are you today?
I'm fine.
Good.
I want to thank you for your tape. We listened to it with great interest.
Oh, good,
As a
good,
matter of
good.
fact.
Good, I'm
And
glad.
frankly, we see a lot of good things in what you're doing.
Oh, good,
We
good,
think
good.
you have a good potential.
Good,
Very
good.
good potential.
Good.
Which is why I'm going to be absolutely honest
Well,
with you.
that's the way you should be. Absolutely honest.
We just don't think you're ready yet.
Don't think I'm ready.
We just don't feel that right now you're right for Jerry.
Right for Jerry. Mm-hmm.
Some of the material, some of it is good.
Yes.
But some of it, some of the one-liners, for instance, are not very strong.
They're not very strong. In other words, you didn't like some of the jokes. Is that it?
That's right.
Good, good. I can take care of that right away. Just tell me the ones you don't like, and no problem. Actually, that's a great help. This is great.
Now, we think you have a good potential. Your timing, by the way, is excellent.
Thank you.
But we feel you should keep developing your
Yes.
act. You ought to test it in a few live situations. I think that'd be very good for you. Now, there are a number of clubs in the city that you can try. When you start working in one of those, you give us a call. We'll send
Okay.
someone down to check you out. That's a promise. Okay?
Thanks.
You're welcome. Bye-bye now.
Thank you. Miss Long, may I ask you a question?
Yes.
Are you speaking for Jerry?
Yes, I am.
You are.
I am, and he has complete faith in our judgment.
Well, I'm sorry to have to say this, Miss Long, and I certainly don't want you to take it personally, but I have to tell you I don't. I don't have faith in your judgment.
Well, I'm sorry that you feel that way. But I guess there's really nothing we can do about that, is there?
No, I'm afraid I'll have to disagree with you again, Miss Long.
Well, that's your privilege, Mr. Pumpkin. Now, would you excuse me, please? I have a great many things to do.
Miss Long, when will Jerry be back?
Mr. Langford won't be in until very late this afternoon. Mr. Pumpkin, we mean what we say when we thank you for stopping up. And we mean it when we tell you that you can call us when you start working, all right? Goodbye.
Allegedly, De Niro was doing stand-up comedy just as like prep for this role. He would show up at open mics and do stand-up.
Nice.
There is a stand-up segment at the end of this movie. It's kind of what everything ends up building towards.
It's pretty decent for the time. It's
Yeah.
pretty clean comedy, but it's, yeah.
So I'm going to spoil King of Comedy just so everybody knows what we're talking about. So what happens is basically we reach a boiling point. De Niro keeps getting sent away. It's kind of, we see the layers of fame, how there's all these people keeping him away from Jerry.
Yeah.
Eventually, De Niro shows up at Jerry's house unannounced. I love shout out to Oh, shout out to Jono, his butler, one of the funniest characters in the
Oh,
movie.
yeah. You did good. You did good.
Yeah. You did good, Mr. Langford.
Yeah, thanks.
Who's just, again, like Rupert Pupkin can kindly steamroll a lot of people. And he steamrolls Jono and the lady helping out at Jono. And eventually everything comes to a head where Rupert Pupkin decides that the only way he's ever going to get his big break is if he kidnaps Jerry Langford, holds him hostage for the opportunity to do a set on his late night TV show.
Yeah.
And I would say it's a little hard to believe, but that's exactly what ends up happening is he does a stand-up set while his friend Marcia, the girl that we talked about earlier, that is very...
She's very much delusional as well, but she's even like takes the cake. She's like I said, exudes craziness.
Yeah, even Rupert is like, you're too much.
Yeah. I love the scene where she's like having Jerry try on the sweater.
Yeah.
And she's just like, it just looks so good. And then Rupert is just like, just take it off. Like why do we have him doing this? I let you do this for 20 minutes. Like.
And there's also some jealousy there because it's funny. Even at the end, so there's a scene where he makes Jerry do the phone call for like
to his agents or something, and then he has the cards that Jerry's reading off.
Yeah, and he like messes up the cards.
Yeah,
and he like makes a joke, and Jerry doesn't laugh, and he's like, "Look, there can be moments, even in stressful times, of what they call friendship."
Yeah,
like he's literally kidnapping this man, but deep down, all he wants to do is be his friend,
yeah,
and be in his inner circle.
I love the scene where Marcia and Rupert are walking down through what is that, Times Square, and they're kind of just arguing to each other about who's more delusional.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a great scene, and that was one of the scenes where I was saying the onlookers. It was just a bunch of people, actual people,
Yeah.
in fucking in Times Square, just kind of watching them do this scene. It was pretty great.
You must be really loving this, Rupert, huh?
You were schmucko supremo last night.
Hold
I
on a
could
minute.
not
I'm the
believe it.
schmuck. Me. You're
You're
wrong,
really
buddy.
crazy.
You're very wrong.
Yeah.
Because
What?
if I hadn't gotten in that car last night, you never even had the chance to talk to Jerry. Keep that in mind, okay?
What?
Yes.
Listen, I don't want to be cruel, but really, we're in front of Jerry's building. God forbid he should see me with you, because Jerry and I have a real relationship going. You know what I mean? No fantasy world. You know what I'm talking about? And after what you did last night, I don't even want to see you anymore. You hear? I don't want to see you.
Fine,
Bye. I
that's
gotta
the
go.
way you want it?
Yes, that's what I
Wait right here.
I'm sorry. I'm not
Just
giving
get it to him.
I'm not giving him anything. Oh, no way. No way, Jose. You're the one who's so friendly. You give it to him.
Well, right now we're having kind of a communication problem,
Oh, is that
and
what you
I
call
need
it?
you to get this to
Is
me.
that what you call it? You're always bragging about how you broke bread with Jerry. Well, go ahead, give it to me. No, so what?
Just do this for me, Rupert. What about the time I've done things for you?
One thing this movie really nails is like the realism of the loner fantasy,
Yeah.
because we get several scenes where Rupert is home alone and he's acting out. There's the dinner scene where he's like talking to himself, pretending he's at dinner with Jerry Langford. There's, I think, a really iconic shot where he's pretending to be introduced on the show, and he stands up against a wall that has like a crowd in it.
Great shot.
And then the camera just kind of falls back.
Yeah.
And pulls away
It's a
while
great fucking shot.
while the applause keeps getting more deafening as it goes, everybody, Rupert Pupkin, yay!
And it just gets more maniacal as you keep going. Yeah, I love it.
And he's also in the middle of this, constantly getting interrupted by his mother. He's screaming at his mother, who is
Ma!
which, while we're talking about it, did you realize that his mother doesn't exist? His mother's dead. He says it in the
Says it at
stand-up.
the end, yeah. Yeah.
So it's a further delusion that he's still living at home with his mother. Like, that's another fantasy for him, is that his mother still there pestering him.
Yeah, that's fucking eerie, man. Doesn't he have like cardboard cutouts of like Jerry and like some
Jerry
guests?
and his like sidekick guy.
Yeah.
And he sits himself in between them and pretends to have conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love all those scenes in Jerry's apartment where we really just get the like... It is a sillier version of the Taxi Driver unwinding. In Taxi Driver, he's just brooding and writing in his journal. In this, he's like doing little skits with himself.
Yeah.
And those are the parts that really stand out.
How can I not think about it? I mean, I've been sitting here at lunch with you, which I knew was the reason you invited me for in the first place, and all I'm sitting here and eating for is to get guilty with you, right?
I'm asking you to take over the show for 6 weeks.
I
mean, what's 6 weeks?
I'll give you anything, but don't ask me to do 6 weeks. I can't take over the show for 6 weeks. I can't even take over my own life for 6 weeks. And you're asking me to do something that's impossible. It's impossible. Don't you understand? What?
What are you doing down there so late?
It's impossible. I'm trying to tell you that. What do you want? You want the tears to come out of my eyes?
Because, I mean, we've all, besides like the absolute delusion of this character, we've all been there where we were fantasizing about being famous or being on a talk show or singing in front of a crowd of people. You know, we've all been there. We understand that motivation, but he just takes it to the ante, you know.
He ups the ante.
Yeah.
And the one thing we haven't really touched on, I think, is the kind of love interest who is in Taxi Driver. She is the person who sells the candy at the porn theater.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
There's this bartender who he's fantasized. I assume they were in high school together.
Yeah.
Based on what they talk about, and he's clearly kind of been obsessed with her, and she's never given him the time of day.
Yeah.
Early on, he asks her out on a date. And it doesn't go as sideways as the Taxi Driver date, but he has this scene where he brings out his, Rupert Pupkin is just a star fucker. He's he has his book full of
it could be fake too.
It could be fake. You have no idea with this guy. I also imagine that's probably his primary hobby and motivation for living is doing this stuff. So I wouldn't be shocked if most of them are real, or he seems to me like a guy that would hate a fake signature.
Right.
He'd be mad about it.
But the fact that he carries that book around, that's red flags.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, yeah.
And I love when she doesn't want to play along with the guessing game of there's one very great signature. Can you read it? And she's like, it must have been written by a retard. And it's his own signature. He's like, I'll give you a hint.
So it should be said this movie is a dark comedy.
Yeah.
Essentially. It's not played completely straight. Obviously, the humor for the time, it's a lot more subtle. It's a lot drier.
Mm-hmm.
I really love, the humor really comes out to me, the scenes whenever Jerry is, tied up to the chair.
Yeah.
And our Marcia, it's she's just talking crazy, just saying some weird shit, and you just see Jerry's face. He's just like, fuck this.
She's like, I'm just feeling so spontaneous tonight.
Good old-fashioned American fun. You know, Family Guy parodied that scene. I never realized that was from this movie.
Really?
It was when Meg kidnapped Brian because she was in love with him. That's when she put the hair in his pie or whatever. Yeah, everybody is really great. This is the first movie I've seen Jerry Lewis in. I know Jerry Lewis was a big name back in the 50s and the 60s. Jerry Lewis, Dean Martin, those kind of guys. Yeah, and he was good. He was very natural in this.
Another standout fantasy is when is fantasizing he's on his show, and then that he's going to get married on the show to this girl he's had one date from, but he's clearly been obsessed with high school. And then it's we have a surprise guest, and they're like, who is it? It's your high school principal.
Yeah.
And he comes on, and he's like, Rupert, we were all wrong about you.
We're so sorry for the way we treated you, and we just all want to take the time to apologize. And that's when you're like, okay, this guy's got some repressed trauma going on.
Dearly beloved, when Rupert here was a student at Clifton High School, none of us, myself, his teachers, his classmates, dreamt that he would amount to a hill of beans. But we were wrong. And you, Rupert, you were right. And that's why tonight, before the entire nation, we'd like to apologize to you personally and to beg your forgiveness for all the things we did to you.
And then also that kind of shows in his monologue at the end during his stand-up where he was like, my father used to beat the shit out of me, and my mom was an alcoholic. And you're like, okay, now we know why you are the way you are. You know what I mean? That kind of wraps that bow up.
And that's what I love about the structure of this movie is you don't really know where this is going to go once he gets on the show, or what is going to happen. How is this going to unfold? I kind of, when I watched it the first time, was like, this guy's just going to totally bomb.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. He has a stand-up set that is funny enough. He's getting laughs. And it also is this backloaded reveal of oh, this is why, while still being the comedy set, you're like, it's all about like, they used to beat me at school, and then there's this one kid who wouldn't beat me, and he's like, come on, don't you want to get an A?
Yeah.
And, you know, my mother, she passed away a while ago, and like you get reveals about his character, and it's like, this is why the way he is. It's not just the being a kind of funny comedy set.
Yeah.
It also is like informing everything that's happened previous to this and like kind of enriching everything that you've already seen.
It's a guy that's been literally stepped on by society, and it's.
And like Taxi Driver reaches his breaking point, but his breaking point is kidnapping Jerry Langford, and he has like no intention of ever hurting him. They have a cap gun. They don't even have a real gun.
Well, it's funny at the end when they're kind of going through the montage of like his success after. Jesus, cat's going crazy in the bathroom. But you're going through the montage of his success, and it says that in his memoir, he still wants to. He still considers Jerry a good friend and mentor or whatever. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he obviously is still like infatuated by this guy, and actually I kind of found that the ending to be kind of similar to Taxi Driver, where it's like it's very vague in the sense of like you don't know if this is reality still.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It could be all part of his delusion, his fantasy again.
I think you can read it both ways. I kind of read it as fantasy, and I feel like there's only one hint. Like it could be. Also, this movie has aged wonderfully because of the way you can achieve fame. Like he achieved fame through like infamy. His whole deal is I kidnapped Jerry Langford. He says it in his set. I kidnapped Jerry Langford. And you guys are laughing now, but tomorrow you'll realize I'm not lying and that I really did this, and it's crazy that I'm here. But I figured better to be king for a day than schmuck for a lifetime.
Yeah. Well, and now we live in this time period where everybody's chasing that 15 minutes, you know?
Yeah. So it's like you can read it very realistically that this man has his 15 minutes of infamy and fame. He can write his tell-all book. Yeah. I mean, there's real life characters that are definitely like this that have done worse things, and go on to like achieve fame.
Be
later.
Moderately successful after,
But they have this, like in his big comeback scene, they show him, he's supposed to be introduced in his show, and they're like, everybody, Rupert Pupkin, and the applause is deafening, and it closes in on his face. And he says, everybody, it's Rupert Pupkin. Like, it says it a few too many times. I think it says a total of 8 times. Yeah. And it just holds a little too long, and it kind of echoes that scene where he's up against staring at the wall.
Yep, and all the applause and everything.
And the applause just gets more and more deafening. And to me, I read that as the hint that, like, kind of showing your hand. It's the top wobbling at the end of Inception. Like we are not in reality anymore.
Yeah.
But you can really read it both ways.
For sure. Shall we move on?
Let's move on to It's an Art, Bro. This is where we talk about aspects of the filmmaking process: sets, effects, lighting, soundtrack.
What's this?
It's an art project.
Okay, I like it. Picasso. Yeah, that way.
There's some really great shots in this. The scene that you mentioned earlier with him up against the or speaking to the wall or doing his monologue to the portrait of the mural of all these people, and it just pans out, and it's this great wide shot, and it's so eerie, and you just really see into the psyche of this character. He's a very broken and delusional man, and I love that. I think that scene is probably the most like iconic in this film. There's some great scenes in the apartment where he's holding Jerry hostage. Great lighting. It's like when he's tied up to the chair and all the candles are around him. It's just funny and it's stupid and it's great. It's funny because that office that he's in, that he goes to see Jerry, it's almost like futuristic looking.
No, yeah, I was going to say the decor of that office is very like, I think this is a real like early 80s thing where they do the like futurism.
Future retro kind of look, yeah.
Yeah, where everything's shaped round edges. Yeah. And, like, it's really weird. It's interesting looking, for sure.
For sure.
I was going to mention the decor. Also, the decor of Jerry's apartment is kind of like that when we see Jerry's apartment briefly. Great soundtrack. I love how this movie starts. It's like 3 minutes of just people screaming over each other.
Yeah.
And then the car door shuts and we get a freeze frame, and then just this swing song plays as the credits roll.
Beautiful song. Yeah.
Classic Scorsese, just bringing in the sick soundtrack.
Yeah. I want to mention, so there's a big movie that's been very heavily influenced by this film. I actually thought that this film I'm going to speak about was influenced more by Taxi Driver, but after watching this, I'm like, it's literally a remake. The Joker from 2019. It's literally a remake of King of Comedy, and especially with the scenes where he's on the actual talk show. So
yeah, De Niro. I mean, that's why they cast De Niro as the talk show host.
Yeah.
It was a nod
Murray
to the King of Comedy.
Yeah. Even the mannerisms of Rupert and Joaquin Phoenix's Joker are very similar, just the way they speak, and you know how he's like Murray, you know, that kind of thing, that weird kind of inflection he does in his voice, very similar to Rupert's character. Yeah, and then I look at the Joker, I'm like, well, it's like a much worse version of this film. The Joker kind of does this thing where it also takes the political aspect of Taxi Driver, and it kind of melds the two films together. And it's interesting from that aspect. If it was its own standalone thing, I would think it'd be a lot more groundbreaking. But after watching these two films, I'm just like, you're just taking all these ideas and making a worse product out of it. If it wasn't a movie about the Joker, I think I would be more interested in it. But that's kind of what I took from it. I just found that interesting because since this is my first time watching King of Comedy.
I have still avoided watching this Joker movie. So.
It's very depressing. If you've seen these two films, you've seen the Joker. So
yeah, I feel like I've watched the prequels.
Yeah. Also Drive. I think Drive was more influenced by Taxi Driver, but there's still, just the delusional character. It's definitely an homage to that type of deal. So
yeah, I think Drive is definitely more Taxi Driver because Rupert will not shut up.
Right. And our driver is very quiet.
He's basically a mute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. I love, again, this has a lot of real deal New York scenes, a lot of, like you mentioned, there's the scene where they're arguing with each other, and he turns around and he's like definitely playing to the real crowd that is assembled. He's like, this woman, what am I going to do with her?
Everybody's just smiling and laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's great, and I already shouted out the great soundtrack. It is, like Martin Scorsese always makes like a well-shot movie. Like I feel like they all age well, even the 70s ones. Raging Bull, super beautiful. This movie. Yeah, it's got some great stuff artistically. Should we move on to, hey, what are you trying to say?
All right, let me just get that last measurement on your
Thank you. I need this for the wedding.
Okay, well,
I need it really quickly.
It could take about a week to do.
It could take a week?
Mm-hmm.
So, what are you trying to say? He's trying to say that I'm so big, my bum is so big, you need to order to various countries far away to get enough material to make a pair of pants so I can fit my incredibly obese buttocks into a pair of your specially made little suit.
No, I'm the only one working here this week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I think we kind of already touched a little bit, just kind of like the dangers of chasing fame.
Yeah.
And just like the soullessness that you kind of have to kind of like pursue this kind of art form, or just like the I don't know, it's very relevant, like you were saying, where it's just like we live now in this day and age where it's like anybody can kind of achieve it, and you have to be a real dickhead to try to like really push your way into that field. I'm thinking mainly like these not streamers, but the guys who do. We were talking about this the other day. The pranksters and stuff, and the people who are just like it's just a soulless art form that they're trying to do, and it's just really they're just fucking with people on the streets, and
it's just filmed harassment.
Yeah, basically, and it's like anything for clicks though, because some people find this funny, or they just see the shocking nature of this type of
I think it's more rubbernecking.
Yeah,
like, I'm waiting for the one where this guy gets folded.
Yeah, you're waiting for the train wreck, which is like in line with Rupert's character too. I don't think anybody really likes him at the end, but if we are looking at this from the perspective that that ending is real, people are infatuated with him because of what he did, and they're trying to kind of see into his mind a little bit. It's the same thing what we do with like when we idolize serial killers and stuff. You're just trying to see the motivation behind it, and it's fascinating to watch.
Yeah, it's. I mean, like more and more people like notoriety is a ticket to fame more than it's ever been. It always has been, but it is more so these days. I think so, and it's an avenue that a lot more people are pursuing.
Well, because anybody can film anything now, you know.
Yeah, and it's just the obsession with fame that Rupert clearly has, Marcia has. I mean, there's a whole crowd there that are absolutely, at the beginning of the movie, they're just absolutely losing their minds because Jerry Langford's walking from here to this car. And I mean, I'm sure that's something that celebrities have dealt with, done a real celebrity, but like it's. I think this movie is really good at capturing the inside of like the mind of the person that really just wants fame.
Sure.
I don't think it necessarily mattered to Rupert how he became famous.
Right.
He wanted to be able to. The only reason he wanted it is so he could be like, you guys were all wrong about me in my past.
Yeah.
Like he does in his fantasy.
Yeah.
I'm really a winner. You guys didn't know that back then, but look at me now. He's delusional when he's dating the woman for a couple dates because he's like, I want to take you out of here. I want to make a better life for you.
Have a house on Malibu, you know. Yeah.
But in reality, this man has done nothing. It's not even clear if he has like a day job.
No, I think he works for an agency or something because there is a scene in the beginning where he goes into this office and he's pretending, or he calls up Jerry's office, and then he hangs up the phone, and the receptionist lady, she obviously knows him, and she's like, you got something with Jerry Langfield? And he's like, oh yeah, you know, watch this kind of thing. Yeah, but it doesn't really seem like he has anything that's kind of nailed down.
This is just a line I thought was really funny after he shows, after he does a set, he goes to the bar and he wants to show his romantic interest, his set again for that you were wrong, look at me type of deal. And there's just one random guy in the bar, and after they show it and he's like, and the guy, and Robert De Niro leaves, the guy goes, hey, that was the guy in the TV. That guy in the TV. It's the same guy. I don't know why that just killed me, but I'm like,
it was like nice. Good job, Sherlock. This
guy must be deep in the liquor at this point.
I also think this movie kind of humanizes celebrities a little bit, especially with Jerry. He doesn't really care, and I think we tend to, as a society, idolize these people and think of them more as gods than we do normal everyday people. They eat, sleep, and shit just like the rest of us. He doesn't want to be bothered in his home. Right. You know? He doesn't want to be bothered on the street when he's just walking from one building to the next. He doesn't really care to hear from people who are trying to pitch all these ideas to him and trying to be a part of what he's doing. And I think anybody who's in that situation would kind of feel the same. I mean, you see like videos of celebrities and they're getting followed around by paparazzi and everything. That's an exhausting lifestyle. And we need to stop idolizing these celebrities and realize that they are just people and they are flawed. And I think you'll be a lot happier for it. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Swifties.
And the double-edged sword of that, because there's like the lady that's on the phone and says hello to Jerry, and then she's like, do you want to talk to my nephew? He's on the phone. He's like, no, I don't have time. I got to be there. And she's like, well, fuck you, motherfucker.
I hope you get cancer. Yeah.
So how, like, and I think this is kind of his attitude. Like, it's not real. People will change on a dime.
For sure.
And it's true for celebrity up to this day. Like, these people don't love you. They envy or want to watch you, but they are not, your real friends.
Yeah.
And it's interesting just how many layers, like, there's probably even more these days of, like, insulating him from a person like Rupert that's trying to butt in. Like, the only reason he got a few minutes with him is because he ducked into that car at the beginning of the movie and took that short ride with him.
That reminded me of, like, the videos of, like, guys who run up to rappers and start rapping. Who like, can you sign me? kind of thing. Yeah, that just, like, reminded me of that. They don't care to hear your mixtape, my guy.
Or I hear stories that people, their tune might have changed now that Kanye has said a lot of things he shouldn't. But people be like, can you believe that Kanye was just showing up to whatever records and rapping to the people and they were uninterested and didn't care? And I'm like, yeah, because this is not the time and place.
Yeah. I mean, you hear about success stories like that every once in a while. I think Big Sean like ran up to Eminem one time and started rapping for him, and Eminem was like, "Yeah, I want you a part of what I'm doing." But that's lightning in a bottle. You know? That doesn't happen all the time. So
1 in a billion. All right, should we move on to Let the Hate Flow Through You? This is where we air out our annoyances and our complaints.
Good. Use your aggressive feelings, boy. Let the hate flow through you.
I thought this movie went a little too long for my taste. It's not that long, but I think there's some pacing issues. You're kind of just like going back and forth between like him showing up to Jerry's office and then, you know, just kind of random stuff. The stuff with Marcia feels like a completely different movie. Especially at the end when she's like got him tied to the chair and all these candles. It was just like, what the fuck is this? You know, it felt like it kind of took me out a little bit. I was like, you know, I'd watch a movie about Marcia. You know what I mean?
Marcia's a very enjoyable character.
Yeah, but it didn't really fit with the flow of the film.
Yeah,
you know.
No, Marcia is like top tier screaming at you.
Yeah.
Characters of all time.
My doctor says I shouldn't have any fun, but I can have fun. No, you shouldn't. Listen to your doctor, please.
Yeah. I think the finale kind of strains the bounds of credulity. What Rupert gets away with in order to have his 15 minutes of fame, and how that all goes down seems like probably wouldn't have gone down that way in reality.
The most incompetent FBI agents I've ever seen.
I do love the scene where the like lawyers and the like execs are all screaming at each other about what to do.
Yeah,
that's really funny.
Yeah, the guy's like, "I'm going to sue. I'm going to sue." They're like, "Who are you going to sue?" I'm going to sue the studio, and I'm going to sue the FBI.
Just a bunch of rich guys being mad at each other. That was great. So I'm willing to, you know, just have fun with it.
Yeah.
I can see someone being like, well, none of this should really work out. The whole like last 30 minutes, none of this should really pan out the way that it does.
I mean, he did his time. He did 2 years of his 6-year sentence.
Yeah.
Which it seems like, you know, he got off a little easy, but, you know, he's also a white man in the 70s, so.
Well, also, I think if they technically didn't have a weapon, I think that drops their charge.
Yeah.
But she has like a dart gun.
It was like a what is that called? The
like an
Nerf
airsoft
guns.
Yeah.
The Nerf gun. Yeah. He had no real intention of hurting him. So,
no.
Other than that, I can't really think of anything that I was really irked by, or any gripes or anything.
Shall we move on to our final question, which is this a perfect movie?
You lost a baby brother. Perfect in every way.
I had a baby brother. I had a little baby brother. And he was perfect. Perfect in every way.
I would say no. I don't know. I think you might be leaning the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see as we go on with our Scorsese series. But this is up there with my favorite Scorsese movies.
Okay.
I just like just how it's pretty unique in his film genre, I guess.
Yeah.
Like it's a little kind of sidestep from a lot of what you would expect from him.
Yeah.
Still has a lot of his signatures, the music, a lot of great
characters.
shots, having Robert De Niro play someone unhinged, you know. But I just like that it's a little bit different angle, and I like the subject matter. Like, I like how this handles the subject matter more than Taxi Driver handles, like, the inner rage of, like, the antisocial bigot. This I like as, like, there's so many people these days, and continuing on.
It's very realistic.
It's very realistic, and it's very maintains relevancy. Has become more relevant, I would even say, over time. But it's fine. It doesn't have to go on the list.
Yeah, I mean, we could always come back at the end of the month and, you know, kind of compare films going forward. I think this and Taxi Driver are like, you know, two sides of the same coin. Very different, but at the same time, they have the same type of theme kind of going, same type of vibe. even though Taxi Driver is a lot more dark. But I just think there's just so many better Scorsese. Again, I might have a biased opinion towards Scorsese films because obviously we have our like ones that are like solidify Scorsese. You know what I mean? We have the big epic kind of films, but that we're more used to, more akin to. But I do appreciate. Huh?
Are you talking about Gangs of New York?
Yes.
That's everybody's favorite.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. Talking about The Departed. I do appreciate how different these two films are, as far as like just, and especially for Robert De Niro too. I mean, this is really like him showing his range as an actor, which we don't really see too much of anymore. I think the most range we've gotten from him recently is in Killers of the Flower Moon, where he plays a Southerner, with the Southern Belle accent,
If not my favorite Scorsese movie, this might be my favorite De Niro
performance. I think I would agree with you on that too, because I think, like you were saying, this actually kind of this role kind of reminds me of like Leonardo DiCaprio a little bit.
There's just except Leonardo would be screaming at some point.
He would be raging.
He would be really high keyed. I like how just kind of like casual, but nagging, but annoying, but endearing. There's just a lot of like subtle
layers,
a lot of layers and like subtle details to everything.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, De Niro, he's one of the greatest. Next week we'll be talking about Goodfellas. That's one I'm looking forward to. Have any closing remarks there, buddy? Want to keep the pod going?
Speaking of the king of comedy, Jerry Seinfeld has a new movie coming out.
Oh God!
Where I think it's already out on Netflix. So the origin of the Pop-Tart.
Oh yeah.
And he went on a lot of podcasts saying, these liberals, they've ended comedy.
Oh yeah, Jerry, you need to be careful. Remember what happened to Kramer? Let's not forget. He started getting political.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just really funny coming from Jerry Seinfeld, a comedian who has never been edgy.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's like the trend. He saw it worked out for Cat Williams, so he's like, let me try my hand.
He saw Cat Williams in a stadium.
Yeah,
if Cat Williams is not canceled, Jerry Seinfeld is not canceled.
No,
we just don't care.
No, we don't.
The people. They don't crave a Jerry Seinfeld directed movie about fucking Pop-Tarts.
It's about the creator of Pop-Tarts? Is that what it's about?
It's like, I don't even know. I think it's like the Flaming Hot movie.
Oh, Jesus.
But it's like, it's a pre-defense now. I'm realizing it's like Zack Snyder when he's like, actually behind the curtain is the real extended cut good version of this movie.
Oh, yeah.
that the suits didn't let me make. It's like when my stupid Pop-Tart movie bombs, I can just be like, that's because the liberals they don't like comedy anymore.
You always got to have a plan B, You got to save face somehow.
Even though what's his name has been on Curb Your Enthusiasm for like the last 12 years, and he's the co-writer and creator of Seinfeld.
What's his face? He sounds just like Jerry Seinfeld too.
What's the deal?
Go ahead.
I've just been told I need to work on my Jerry Seinfeld. That might not have been great.
Yeah. It's okay. It's kind of like a hard kind of voice to pull off. Speaking of Netflix, I started watching a series with my fiance called Baby Reindeer, and it's about this comedian, again, another comedian. He's trying to again break into show business, and he is stalked by this woman, and he's like a British national, and he's being stalked by this woman. She's like ruining his life and everything. It's really great, and it kind of goes into that kind of like this subject matter that's been very much talked about today, about how these like the trauma and just like people who are trying to break into show business are being preyed on by these predatory executives and these people who are already in the industry, and just like the residual effects of that trauma onto these characters. And I guess it's a real life story, and the main actor It's his actual story, and it's pretty interesting because he's like living through these events again, and it's fascinating. It's kind of like it's a limited series, or it's kind of a mini series. It's not, the episodes are like maybe 25 minutes apiece. So yeah, I recommend everybody should watch Baby Reindeer. It's pretty good.
If you want to watch something on Netflix, you should watch Ready Player One. The Iron Giant fights Mechagodzilla is really cool.
And there's a Gundam. That was
Gundam.
pretty sweet.
There are people who have lines.
Is this kind of like a movie?
Well, I don't know if we can call it a movie. It's kind of like getting waterboarded with references.
Oh, so it's Fortnite.
Steven Spielberg, what have you done?
You made E.T. and Jurassic Park. Those movies had so much heart and soul.
I just randomly watched this movie last week, and it's the most hated movie I've watched recently.
I don't know what made you.
I kind of knew I would dislike it, but I was like, let's see what this is. And then I had fun for like 30 minutes, a little bit of fun. I was like, okay, this isn't like...
Isn't the racing scene fun? I remember there was like a big racing
The race
scene
at the beginning, and at the beginning I had a little hope, and then it was just like, look, we're at the Outlook Hotel. That is?
Yeah. Is that from The Shining?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know what that is.
I know what that is. It's like, let's name the most basic... It's like Bill and Ted...
What's more insulting, the new Space Jam or Ready Player One?
I feel like Ready Player One laid down the blueprint, and LeBron James said, "I'll take that and dunk it." You know,
he said, "Give me that Rick and Morty cameo."
Yeah, because I mean, the original Space Jam that was insulated just in the Tooniverse. You know,
yeah, and you just had the Looney Tunes. So.
But this one's like, well, Warner Brothers owns a lot of properties.
Remember A Clockwork Orange?
Yeah.
That's what we need in our children's movie.
So, cool, I guess. I hope all movies just become just a montage of references of other movies and products.
Oh
That's
God.
what really... Hey, have you ever had a Pop-Tart? Jerry Seinfeld. He's going to have you learn about Pop-Tarts.
It'd be the Pop-Tart with like the blue icing on it with like the red squiggle, and it's like you don't know what the fuck this flavor is, but you're gonna keep eating it.
They should have like mystery Pop-Tarts, like they have mystery.
They do have mystery Pop-Tarts. Dude, any kind of Pop-Tart you can think of, they have. Okay.
I've not consumed a Pop-Tart in like half a decade at least.
I feel like it would destroy my kidney.
I feel like the only situation where I'd eat a Pop-Tart is if I was like needed to eat and all I had was a vending machine, and on the bottom shelf they had Pop-Tarts.
I used to eat them before work in the morning, but I was like, there's no nutritional value in this. I can't eat this because I feel like nothing after.
It's just like eating cookies for breakfast.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. You know what's good though? Toaster strudels still hit to this day. Gotta eat you a toaster strudel, my guy.
All right, so next week.
Goodfellas. Would you recommend King of Comedy to people?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Check it out. It's on Paramount Plus, I think, or you could just rent it anywhere.
Yeah. If you get the chance, go through Martin Scorsese's stuff, man. Some of the best in the business. For show.
And this one's something a little different. If you're like, I've seen enough gangster...
I never get tired
Rise
of
and
the
Fall
gangster stuff.
Type movies. If you got tired of Joe Pesci being racist and violent, check this one out.
Who's gonna ever be tired of Joe Pesci being racist and violent?
Like you know how he is in Home Alone.
Oh yeah, he was super racist.
Remember when he looked at Macaulay Culkin and said, "You Jew motherfucker, you."
That's the only reason he wanted to rob that house, because there's Jewish people living there.
It was a big house.
It was a big house.
They had a lot of kids.
Ironically, the dad from Home Alone, he was a big Hollywood exec.
But I didn't see any yarmulkes or menorahs. They were celebrating Christmas, not Jews, or at least not practicing Jews.
Yeah, you have some of those for sure. Not as hip to their heritage.
You know, Ben Shapiro says secular Jews are not real.
Ben Shapiro says a lot of things. He says a lot of things.
Okay. Should
Have
we end
you
it now?
seen him review Sexy Red songs? Those are
no.
great. You should definitely check those out.
Take a picture next to see two bad bitches.
Kendrick. All right.
Martin Scorsese, Martin Freeman. He's a hobbit.
Isn't there a guy named Martin Lee?
Probably.
Yeah, he does something.
There's a movie called Martin about a vampire.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But it's not that guy. Not Dimitri Martin, the
Why can't I
comedian.
think of any Martins? You already said Martin Luther King.
That's true.
You ever seen My Friend Martin?
No.
That's a animated movie about these kids who go back in time and meet Martin Luther King.
Oh, I thought it was going to be like an I Am Sam type scenario.
No,
just
it was
based
like
on that
these
title.
this white and this black kid, they go back in time, and then the white friend becomes becomes racist, or he doesn't become racist, but like he doesn't remember his black friend. He's
It
like,
sounds like a Magic School Bus episode
like,
from hell.
He's like, you're black, and I can't be friends with you.
That's your drinking fountain.
Michael, if we were living in the 60s, we couldn't do this podcast.
They wouldn't allow us to make a podcast.
No.
They'd say, "What are you talking about?
Talking about
race mixing?
It's a foreign concept."
You can't be friends. They break us apart.
All right, until next time, don't be racist.
Do it. This is the don't be racist all year challenge. Okay?
Yeah. See if you can keep it going.
Let's try that on TikTok.
We'll understand if, you're not able to keep it the whole 12 months.
February's passed and you thought, now I can be racist again, but you can't.
No, it's a year challenge. If you win this challenge, you get a John Boyega Funko.
Yeah. But with a little napkin you can put over it.
Limited
in
edition
case you're
Chinese.
You got a certain company you don't want to see.
Bye.
A fanboy knows a hater.